This happened to us 2 years ago. We, myself, my daughter, and her father, lived in a double, a shared house. This incident took place over a span of a month. One day, we decided to walk to the store as it was close to the house and a nice day. When we came back, we noticed someone had tried to pry off our locks off the door. There were obvious dents, blue marks, and a whole big boot print on our door, front and back. Someone wanted in bad. I have no idea why. We have nothing of major value and live in the neighborhood. We were gone for less than 20 minutes, so we're on edge. The person could still be around. After that, there are so many bizarre things that were happening. I'm trying my best to explain this in a way that is easy to follow and keep it short. If I described each thing I noticed in my house, I'd be typing for days. I found things out of place where I know I didn't put them. I noticed the locks on my old windows are broken. I noticed my dish liquid bottle was broken. There is a weird oily substance on random stuff. On my curling iron in the bedroom, on my daughter's toys. So, later on I take the trash out to the dumpster in the alley. When I lift the lid, I see some type of homemade tool. It was a short metal rod with a washcloth tied around the end, with a blue doctor's type glove on the end. I realize this is what the person used on my door to try and pry the lock. This is where the blue markings came from. What else is out here in the trash? I look into my neighbor's dumpster just because. What I found made my heart sink. In their trash bag was my belongings, the most random. My title to my old car, which was in a duffel bag in the top of my closet, some of my clothes, makeup, household items. At this time, the woman who lives next to me sees me discovering this. The man and her who live there start arguing loudly. She walks out and across the street. He is standing in his doorway giving me a death look. I was so angry and scared, coming to the realizations these people had been in my house. I look up at him and say, "I know you guys have been in my house now." And his response, "I didn't steal anything," with a smirk. A quick description, a shirtless, fat, redneck old white guy. I'm losing it. The words slipped right out of my mouth. "I'm gonna burn your house down." My mind is racing, thinking of all the times things were out of place. My dish liquid bottle was broken because it sits on the sink below a window. They broke it coming through my window. They had been in here multiple times. Cutting to the chase, I called the cops. They came out, talked to the neighbors, and left. After they leave, the man is out by my back door on the phone with someone, smiling. Not 10 minutes later, about 5 cars pull up, full of people. A big truck pulls up behind my truck and blocks it in. A white guy with a tank top on and gold chains around his neck gets out. I see he has a gun. I shoved a chair up against my back door and see these people heading for it. I screamed for my boyfriend, grabbed my daughter, and ran as fast as I could out the front door. At this time, there are also people coming around the side of the house. I hear a big pop. They shot. I'm almost off my porch. All I could do was yell, "Please, no." And we are running down the street. I'm holding my daughter, who is cracking up laughing. She's 2, because I'm running with her and she has no idea what's going on. I know I'm about to get shot. I know I'm going to get gunned down on the street. Somehow, we make it around the corner and didn't die. Called the cops again. They searched and found no bullets. Took statements from neighbors. I asked them to stay for a moment while I went into the house to grab some clothes, and we, sure enough, aren't staying here tonight. When I grab the clothes and diapers, I see an empty gallon of weed killer in my daughter's room. This is the oily substance I've been coming across. In the time it took us to run, wait on the cops, and come back, they had re-entered my house again. Poured the weed killer all over my clothes, my daughter's clothes, all her diapers. I gathered up all I could and left. Nothing ever came of it. No arrests. The last time I went back was to get the rest of my belongings and never look back. There's no answers to all my questions, and I still have nightmares about it. No closure. I've always had this feeling that someone was watching me ever since I moved into my family's house 8 years ago. At first I thought I just watched too much ID investigation, and I was just being paranoid. But I could not help looking over my shoulder when I would walk to school or to my bus stop. When I would walk to school, I was always scared in the mornings when it would be dark during the winter or fall, because where I live is just vast country lands. I live in Canada, and although not much crime happens in my neighborhood, I never could rid myself of this eerie feeling. Even when I would come home from school, being home alone did not help. I would triple check my windows and locks to make sure everything was locked. However, in my basement, our garage door was never fully locked since the door hinge was broken and detached from the door. Therefore, it would never properly close. I always told my dad to fix this door, but because he would always go away for work, he never found the time to do so. Stupidly, I thought nothing bad would happen since my garage needed a 4-digit passcode to get in. On a side note, I just want to let everyone know that never under any circumstances put your birthday as your passcode for anything. Even if you switch up the dates so that the day is first and then the month is second, do not do it because it will be obvious. Now, my theory is that he knew the passcode in my house. Therefore, he had free reign for several years to go through my things. At first, I thought I was being forgetful. Maybe I was the one who misplaced my underwear somewhere. Maybe I was the one who misplaced my favorite top, or maybe my dad accidentally donated it. But I should have known better. During my 4 years in high school, he never really contacted me. It was when I went to university that things started to change. Since I lived in the countryside, I decided to go to a university an hour away. My dad did not want me to live on residence because he didn't want to leave the house unattended for long periods of time. So we came to the conclusion that it would be best if I drive to and from school. Now, I would leave for university very early in the morning, around 6 a.m., and come back around 6 p.m. at night. I stopped being aware of my surroundings at this time because I would be tired from my 12-hour days, and now that I wasn't walking alone, everything would be fine. When I would come home from university, I would find certain things moved in my house. Now, I am a neat freak, and I might have mild OCD, so I like things a particular way in my house. When little things like my makeup or candies would be moved, I thought it was odd and would frequently bring it up to my dad, but he would just say that it must have been me who was doing it, but it wasn't me. During my second and third year in university, I started getting weird notes in my mailbox. The writing on these notes looked almost childlike and would always be written in blue ink. I have those country-style mailboxes at the end of my driveway where the little red flags go up whenever we get mail. From my way back from university, I would always check the mail, and sometimes I would find these letters. The letters would never be long. In fact, they would only be 1 to 3 sentences that would contain odd questions like, "Where are you? I wonder what you do while you're away from home. How do you find university? It must be tiring driving that long. Did you make new friends? Do you still hang out with your best friend? You dress differently now. Why is that? I miss the scarves you used to wear. You don't close your curtains as much anymore. Why don't you look for me?" These letters would always come once a month at the beginning of the month. I would show my dad, and at first he would say, "Oh, maybe your cousins are just pranking you, or could it probably be your friends, maybe?" But every time I would ask my friends or cousins, they would give me this confused response saying that they never sent me any letters. Now that I am in my 4th year at university, the letters do not come as frequently, but 2 weeks ago something happened that makes me think things are escalating. I came back home from university at 7:45 p.m., and it was fairly dark outside. I saw that my mailbox flag was up, so I checked the mail, and it was just bills. At this point, I haven't gotten a note for a little over 3 months, so now I'm thinking maybe the notes will not come anymore. As I settle in for bed, I change into my PJs and check the locks as usual. As I checked my front door lock, I looked out the glass panel of my door and saw that the red flag in my mailbox is up. It's 10:30 at night. No way the mail could have gotten dropped off, and plus, I just checked the mail. I called my dad and tell him about it, and he said not to freak out, and that maybe one of our neighbors accidentally got our mail and just dropped it off since this happens frequently. I stay on the phone with my dad as I quickly run down my driveway to check my mail. As I open the mailbox, I feel my heart drop because it's an unmarked manila envelope. I quickly run back inside and open the manila envelope, and although there is no written note, I find something more disturbing. It is a pair of my old blue panties that I haven't seen in years. At this point, I scream, and my dad tells me to hang up and call my aunt, who is a police officer. My aunt comes over and checks the inside and outside of my house, but she can't find anything. She tries to jog my memory and asks if I know anyone who could be doing this, but I honestly have no clue. My aunt told me to keep all the letters I get, and she has been staying with me for the days my dad is out for work. My dad is thinking about installing security cameras, and hopefully we can catch whoever it is that way. But what else can I do? I'm so paranoid and scared because I don't know who this person is, but I know he has been stalking me for a while. That underwear he sent me were ones I had while I was in high school, and I lost that pair when I was in grade 10. The fear of the unknown is getting me so much that my anxiety is not letting me function normally. I just don't know what to do. A few years ago, I got my tonsils out, and I should mention that I am well into my 30s. I thought it would be a fairly simple recovery, given that every time I've heard about someone getting their tonsils out, that someone was a child. Blending what I learned from television, my friends, and the internet, it seemed like it would be a breeze. I'd just live on ice cream and mashed potatoes, watch lots of Netflix, and sleep. Spoiler alert, it was not a breeze. I found myself in the emergency room at 3 a.m, 7 days after my surgery, with blood in my throat and the worst pain I could ever even imagine. It was a really bad night, made just a little bit worse with the fact that I was alone. I was being really tough about it, though. And after I'd been triaged and admitted to a room, I tried to make myself comfortable and turn on the TV. The room was fairly large for an ER room. I searched through the channels and found something I wanted to watch, and decided to text my boss to let him know I probably wouldn't be in the next day. I dug for my phone in my purse, found it, and when I looked up, I realized that there was a man in my room. I knew immediately that this man was not in his right mind. He was young-ish, wearing a dirty t-shirt and khaki shorts, and stared at me, unblinking. "Hi, can I help you?" I asked. The man continued staring at me and said nothing. "I don't think you're supposed to be in here," I said, trying to be polite. He said nothing but began advancing toward my bed slowly. My heart was racing, and I was thinking, leave it to me to be taken out in an emergency room of all places. I don't remember what I said next, only it was some sort of panic version of "You're not supposed to be in here, please leave." But he kept lumbering forward, advancing ever more so. He was steps away from my bed when 3 cops rushed into the room. The 3 of them put their hands in front of them defensively, but used very polite and soothing tones. They said things like, Hey, wrong room, buddy. Let's go this way." But they never touched him. Somehow they were able to coax him out the door and down the hall, closing the door behind them. It was surreal. I almost could have thought I imagined the whole thing, except a few minutes later, the doctor came in to see me and immediately addressed it and apologized for my surprise visitor. "Yeah, we got an off-his-med situation," he said, as though that explained everything. Being in a hospital is truly where we are most vulnerable, and I hadn't until then realized how completely mashed together and exposed we can be. Nothing dangerous happened, but it totally could have gone downhill in those few minutes we were alone together. I'm a female and I drive for Lyft at night. I'm on the shorter side of 5'4" and have been driving for nearly 6 months. I tend to drive downtown Denver, especially on weekends when there is the most money to make. In this time, I've only had a couple of true scary encounters, and I drive 7 nights a week, at least a couple of hours a night. The first scary one started out normally enough for that late at night. I had just dropped off a passenger in Aurora and was making my way back towards Market Street since the bars hadn't closed yet. I get a pickup that's on the way. It's a nice enough area that I don't feel uncomfortable, but Anyone who knows Aurora, Colorado knows it's not really the best area, even with the few nice areas. A couple of guys hop in, and one in the front, one in the back, and both have hoodies on and are carrying backpacks, but this is Colorado and almost 1:30 in the morning, so not that odd. Where it gets odd is after they get in. I give my normal greeting, but they completely ignore me, shove their backpacks onto the floor, and pull their hoods up while shielding their faces from the windows with their hands. I was instantly uncomfortable, and I could feel something was off. It was only a 10-minute drive, and we were in a secluded area, so I decided the safest thing I could do was complete the ride. I could feel my fight-or-flight instinct kicking in. Within about a minute, I had decided if they tried anything, I was going to crash my car. Neither one had put a seatbelt on, so I figured that would be my best chance. Once we arrived at the location they wanted to be dropped off at, I could tell it was not a good area. Bars on all the windows, trash everywhere, and cars in disrepair. They get out, but don't shut my doors and start whispering to each other while glancing at me. One of them has his hand in his pocket, fidgeting with something. I have no idea what. At this point, I've had enough and step on the gas, driving off with the doors open. I drove a couple of miles until I got to a gas station with lights and people before I stopped to properly close both doors. I called it a night and headed home to cuddle my toddler and my husband before having a good cry in the safety of my own bed. I have no idea what they were planning to do, but I do know I was terrified from the moment they pulled their hoods up to the moment I drove off with my doors open. The second story takes place a couple of weeks after the first. I had sworn off all pickups in Aurora and the shady parts along Colfax at night. I would still drop people off there, but I would also turn my app off and leave the area when I was done. I was downtown as usual for a Saturday night and the bars were closing. I get a shared ride, which can be very good at bar closing. Now, the thing to know about shared rides is you can't request more than 2 seats, leaving room for 2 more people. I have on multiple occasions had a full car with these types of rides. I get to the person and unlock my doors as normal, and in gets 3 people. Okay, small problem. I'm polite and tell them I can't give them a ride with 3 people, so they will have to order a different lift. This is where this one turns. I don't want to pay more. I'm sorry, but either one of you has to get out or all of you do, and you need to order a different ride. This is a shared ride, and that means I could get 2 more passengers and they need seats. With shared rides, you're only allowed to book 2 seats for 2 passengers. I'm not paying more, so you can ignore other rides and take us home. At this point, he became aggressive and was putting his finger in my face. Maybe I should have been more scared, only this is Market Street at bar close and it's packed. There are drunk people everywhere, and where there are drunk people, there are cops. I roll down my window as he continues to tell me what I'm going to do and starts threatening to put me in my place if I don't start driving right now. I didn't catch the whole thing since I had made eye contact with a cop and was focusing on getting his attention. Okay, now you have a new choice. You can all get out, or I can get that cop right there to get you out. Said cop was making his way over, seeing something was wrong. They all jumped out, the guy flipping me off, and they disappeared into the crowd still looking for rides. The cop stopped to ask if I was okay, and I gave him a short rundown of what happened and thanked him for coming over. I headed off to my next ride, who was a very polite gentleman. In both cases, I reported them to Lyft so I wouldn't get paired with either again. I also carry a foam pepper spray for defense and have a dash cam that records the interior of my car now. Since that last one, I haven't had any issues, so there's that. This happened quite a few years ago when I was relatively young and sheltered high school student, probably 15 years old. Some of my close girlfriends and I decided to go to the drive-in movie theater one night where they show 2 movies in a row and the whole shebang ends pretty late at night, probably around 1 a.m. or so. The 5 of us all drive in my friend Aaron's car, and as we're putting the seats down and setting the back of the car up with blankets and pillows, Aaron recognizes a guy, David, that she had met a few times because he worked at her gym. He was at the drive-in alone, not necessarily weird, just not something many people did in my town, and came over to our car to chit-chat. Immediately, one of my other friends, Kareen, took a liking to this guy and began flirting up a storm. It wasn't soon until Kareen invited him to watch the movie with us inside of Aaron's car. It also wasn't soon until this David guy offered us 15 to 17-year-old girls alcohol, which we accepted. Looking back now, what a red flag. I was wary of this David character as he appeared a lot older than us, maybe in his mid-20s, and gave us somewhat of a weird vibe. But since Aaron seemed to know him and my friends weren't acting alarmed, I didn't give it too much thought. We were not even 15 minutes into the movie, and I am just too uncomfortable to be enjoying myself. 6 people crammed into the back of one car, and Kareen and David cuddling and flirting who knows what underneath the blankets made me want to get out of there ASAP. So when David suggested that me and my 3 remaining friends could watch the movie in his car while he stayed in Aaron's car and canoodled, I jumped to take him up on the offer. David's car was a small sedan with little room, so we had to sit in the seats normally, as if we were about to ride in the car. Although I was a little uncomfortable sitting in the driver's seat with the steering wheel between me and the screen, I was glad to finally have some personal space. That all changed when I dropped my phone and it landed somewhere underneath the driver's seat. While blindly reaching underneath to find my phone, I grabbed onto a hard object that I realized was a lot heavier than my iPhone when I began to lift it up. To my complete and utter surprise, I realized it's a gun. I had never seen a real-life gun before at that point in my life, so it could have been a fake or a BB gun or whatever else, but it looked real and felt real, and was hidden underneath the driver's seat for easy access. It freaked me out because even if it was a fake gun, what could he be intending to use it for besides intimidation? For whatever reason, my friends didn't find this as startling as I did, and they managed to calm me down and concluded the best thing to do was to just put it back underneath the seat where I found it. That was fine to me, as I didn't plan on ever being in this car again once the movie was over, and definitely didn't plan on being in the car when David was in it, ever. The rest of the 2 movies went by fine. We were drinking the beer that David's character so kindly provided to us and having a fun time. It's late by the time the second movie ends, and I'm ready to get back to our friend Erica's house where we were sleeping for the evening. I hop out of David's car, ready to get back into Aaron's car, when I see Aaron's car already driving away. Kareen pops up and cheerfully announces, "David has offered to drive us home. How nice of him, right?" Having no other way to get home, being slightly intoxicated, and watching the rest of my friends pile into the car, I followed suit, even though I had my hesitations. David sat in the driver's seat, I sat behind David, and Kareen sat shotgun, beginning to play her signature Justin Bieber playlist through the speakers. The car ride started out as normal enough, with Erica giving directions to her house, Kareen not paying attention to anything but her Bieber, and me feeling uneasy and hyper-aware of the situation. As we are approaching Erica's house, David asked us if we have time to take a quick drive up to the reservoir, which was located on the outskirts of town, very isolated and surrounded by heavily wooded area. It probably was close to 2 a.m. at this point. The only person who even slightly knew this random man has left us, and I know there is a very real-looking gun underneath the seat of this guy's car that he doesn't know I know about, so of course I say no. David just says, "We're going up to the reservoir." Confused and alarmed, I start politely protesting, saying we really don't have time, we're being expected at home, yada yada. But with every word I say, David turns the volume of the music up louder and louder, drowning out my voice and obviously ignoring me as he starts to head up to the long, dark road that leads to the reservoir. I go into panic mode, annoyed that none of my friends are doing anything, especially Kareen, who is still singing along to Bieber. I start to freak out. I decide that he can't take us up to the reservoir, he just can't. What if the gun is real and he threatens us with it, or worse? What if the gun isn't real, but he still uses it to threaten us to do something? A million thoughts race through my head. I won't let him take us up into a secluded area where any number of things could happen and no one could hear us. I decide if he is going to do something to us, I would rather risk it being there in town, on a more populated road where our chances of survival or whatever were better. So I literally freak out. All sense of politeness I felt I needed to have is gone. I start kicking the back of his chair with both my feet, screaming at the top of my lungs that he needs to take us back now. I roll down the window and start shouting, trying to cause a scene, doing anything I can to try and stop this man from driving us up to the middle of nowhere. I don't stop kicking and screaming until he relents, almost scoffs and says fine, as if I was some crazy lady completely overreacting to the situation. I don't care what he thinks. I'm just relieved he has turned the car around and is actually taking us back to Erica's house. Once we get there and run out of the car, we wake up Eric's parents to let them know what happened, since this guy now has one of our addresses. I didn't sleep that whole night, and my friendship with Corrine was irreparably damaged from her putting me in such a terrifying situation, just 'cause she had the hots for this guy. The Let's Read podcast is brought to you by Robinhood. Robinhood is an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks, ETFs, options, and cryptos, all commission-free. They strive to make financial services work for everyone, not just the wealthy. It's a non-intimidating way for stock market newcomers to invest for the first time with true confidence. Simple, intuitive, clear design with data presented in easy-to-digest ways. From my experience with Robinhood, I've noticed other brokerages charge up to $10 for every trade, but Robinhood doesn't charge commission fees. Trade stocks, and you keep all of your profits. The Robinhood web platform also lets you view stock collections, the 100 most popular sectors like entertainment and social media, and curated categories like female CEOs, and analyst ratings of buy, hold, sell for every stock. Learn how to invest as you build your portfolio. Discover new stocks and track your favorite companies with a personalized newsfeed. You'll get custom notifications for price movements so you never miss the right moment to invest. Robinhood is giving listeners a free stock like Apple, Ford, or Sprint to help build your portfolio. Sign up at letsread.robinhood.com. That's Let's Read, LETSREAD.robinhood.com. Just yesterday, I collected my son from school. While driving back, there was a white health services van reversing quite fast on the road. I came to stop as this driver didn't seem to care about oncoming traffic. I couldn't move my car as there were cars behind me and cars moving towards me. Plus, I was irritated that this driver had such a careless attitude, so I gave a gentle, friendly beep. Such a friendly beep that another parent who was walking her daughter thought that I was giving her a beep, so she gave me a friendly wave. The driver in the van stopped as I beeped, and I proceeded to drive on. As I did, the van followed after. I thought nothing of it and continued on to the main road. Traffic was quite heavy due to the school collections, so I decided to take a detour through a housing estate to make my journey home a little quicker. The van decided to follow. I noticed the van was coming up quite fast behind me. I remained calm, but my son, who kept looking out the back window, commented, "Mommy, that van is following us. He looks angry." I assured him that he was just going the same way, but I was finding it very strange. The detour through the neighborhood that I took was not a place I was very familiar with, so I started driving aimlessly, trying to find the roads that I recognized. All the while, the van was still driving behind me, picking up speed. I eventually came back to the main road by my house, but I was afraid to go directly to my house because I was very aware this man was following me. I indicated right, but quickly changed my mind, indicating left, and the driver in the van did the same. My heart was pounding. I decided I would drive to my local petrol station and stay there. As I drove towards the petrol station, and as I indicated right to turn in, the van sped up beside me, almost forcing my small car off the road. I pulled in and gasped a breath. The van drove on, breaking many red lights. I was so scared, especially considering I had a 6-year-old in the back. When I was around 16 or 17, I worked at a local Tim Hortons store for some extra cash. Nothing too unordinary, just a lot of old folks coming to get their coffee and morning office runs. It wasn't until I started covering midnights for people on the weekends is when a strange man started appearing randomly. It started with him picking up money from the drive-through lane, which is, by law, illegal. He was talked to and stopped picking up the change, but at night in the drive-through cameras there were always 2 pinpricks of whitish-greenish lights coming from the garden, and whispers in our headsets that none of us would admit to. I always thought it was my coworkers playing tricks on me. I mean, we had a lot of jokesters. The whispers would say things like, "I'll skin your bones," and "You enjoy your last bagel." I always got a bagel on break. It made me shiver at the thought someone was always watching, but again, it was most likely my coworkers. The man became bolder. He started ordering weird things like a biscuit, not toasted with butter, but then he wanted it toasted and soaked in coffee. One night he came in with blood on his shirt, and when we asked him if he needed first aid or an ambulance, he just said he needed to pee and that he was fine. My supervisor called the police right away as she came in from changing the outside garbages and was bawling her eyes out. She asked me as the phone rang if anyone had come inside, and I said, "Yes, a man. He went to the washroom, but I think he's hurt." She screamed as she realized it wasn't his blood. She told the operator, "I was changing the outside garbages when I saw a man lying on the sidewalk. He was caked in blood and not breathing. I think the killer's in the bathroom." The police department was no longer than 5 minutes away, and they dragged the man out of the washroom. He was completely naked and trying to touch himself with the blood of the man he killed. I threw up when he started to get very aroused. The store was closed after that, and from what I know, it wasn't an aggravated situation, and even worse, I don't think it hit the news. I'm not sure why these things never hit mainstream media, but I feel like it's the company covering something up. So last night I was at a classmate's house working on a group project we have due tomorrow. I live in an apartment in the town where our university is located, and my classmate lives at his parents' house, which is in the foothills just outside of town. In order to get to the house, you have to drive along a relatively secluded and narrow 2-lane road for about 5 to 6 miles. We started working on the project at about 6 p.m., and I ended up hanging around for a while after we had finished our working. So I left his house pretty late at about 11 and started down the road back towards town. I didn't realize how tough it would be to navigate the road at night. There were no signs of street lights, and the road was unkempt and riddled with potholes. On top of this, I had no cell service, so I had to drive very slowly to make sure I didn't blow out one of my tires, since I had used my spare a couple of weeks back. I figured I was about 3 miles from the house when I rounded a tight corner and saw a pickup truck with a camper shell parked diagonally across the road. The manner in which it was parked completely impeded my path, and I couldn't drive around it because there was a gully on both sides of the road. The only way for me to go at this point was backward, where there was a pull-off that I could use to turn my car around. At first, I couldn't see inside the cab, but when I turned on my high beams, I saw that there was a man slouched over in the driver's seat, his head resting against the steering wheel as if though he had been knocked out after a bad accident. I immediately sensed something was wrong. The way his car had just coincidentally come to a rest in a position that totally blocked the road was a big red flag for me. I had heard stories of people playing dead in the road as a way to lure unsuspecting people out of their cars so they could rob them. I decided, forget this, and elected to go back to my classmate's house and explain what was going on. I threw the car into reverse and kept my eyes darting back and forth between my rear view and the truck. I looked and saw that I was almost a pull-off where I could turn around. When I looked back, my heart skipped about 5 beats. The man who had been slouched over in the driver's seat was now walking at my car at a hurried pace, while a few other men jumped out of the camper shell and started moving towards me as well. I panicked and accelerated backwards into the pull-off, which messed up the undercarriage of my car pretty bad. As I put it into drive, the guy was already at my passenger side door, tugging on the handle, which, thank the Lord, was locked. I only caught a brief glimpse of him, but his face appeared to be scabbed and leathery, definitely a meth head or some sort of drug abuser. I sped away and didn't slow down at all until I reached the house, constantly checking my rear view to see if they were following. Thankfully, they didn't tail me, and when I reached the house, I explained what had happened to my classmate, and we called the cops. I was grateful that my buddy's parents were kind enough to let me stay the night. They didn't find anyone on the road matching the description, but I filed an incident report, and they told me they would be on the lookout for similar vehicles and suspicious activity. But my God, I'm still so shook up over it. I keep getting the same adrenaline rush I got when I saw the guys charging me whenever I think about it. Please share similar experiences you've had, as I would appreciate a good read or a good discussion to help clear my headspace. It was 2002 when I was still using AIM as my main way to chat with people. That said, my AIM username wasn't published anywhere tied to my actual name. Now in college, we get a lookbook with pics and short summaries of everyone in our year. It shows proposed major, hometown, and dorm extension phone number. It does not give your AIM or where you live. Well, I'm a lesbian freshman from Texas at a small liberal arts Ivy college, so I'm far from home but nestled in a pretty tight-knit supportive community. Boy, did that come around to bite me quickly. So before college, I came out on a show. Back then, way less gays or something, I don't know. And anyway, I was getting recognized. So one day on AIM, I get a chat request from a user I don't know. That wasn't odd because it just happened sometimes, and it could have been a new friend or something. But no one at my college had my username. I had just started and was always kind of a loner. This person claimed to be a friend of a friend of a friend from home, and a fan of the show, and I thought it was weird. She found my AIM but didn't look much into it. She basically started out friendly and even seemingly into me. I wasn't into her. I didn't know this random person, and I had a girlfriend. I tried to let her down gently, but every time I did, she would go off on religious rants about how she isn't gay, and I'm going to hell for being gay, and she wants to save me. She would go off on these crazy rants, delete her username, and come back with a new one. Try to be sweet, and the psycho would start all over. This happened a few times. I thought she was a sad, bored, closeted troll, so at this point I'm basically ignoring her random usernames and incoming messages that are sometimes several a day. She was cycling on her own now, being sweet with kissy faces, angered at no reply, ranting about me burning in hell, then suddenly a new screen name. I just ignored them when they popped up. She finally got sick of being ignored, and one day she tells me, I know XYZ. What I wore that day, the way I walk, all of these obsessive little details and judgments about myself, where I eat, my routine, the classes I'm taking. She then drops the bombshell that she actually is a student at my school, on my campus, my year. We had the same admissions counselor, same advisor. She told me her name, and I ran to the lookbook to see who this psycho was. I was terrified when I saw her photo. Not to judge a book by its cover, but she looked like the lady that killed Selena. Suddenly I couldn't block or ignore her, not fully. She was literally in my circle, by no choice of my own. After she revealed who she truly was, her rants got a little less crazy, way less burning in hell talk, thankfully, but now I'd meet people and they'd go, oh, and mention her name, was talking about you. Man, she's a great person, you guys are close, I'm so glad. Always them saying how amazing she was and how lucky I am to have found such a cool friend. Always. I didn't know how to react. I wanted people to like me, and to go around screaming week 3 of college that Selena Killer is crazy and she's stalking me just makes me sound crazy, especially since there's this weird false comfort of being in a predetermined or pre-selected group. It's this idea that people have been vetted or something, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Suffice to say, me calling her out about this to our peers wouldn't have exactly pegged me as someone who fostered a sense of community. I asked her how she got my username, why she was watching me, etc. She told me she got it from the flip book. Not possible. And that she wasn't watching. It's just a small school. It's not that small. And that I surely think highly of myself. So now I'm thinking maybe I am just being arrogant and paranoid, and I have no idea. One day at 2 a.m. my phone rings. It doesn't stop. Dorm phone, so no answering machine. I finally answer, annoyed, and it's the girl. I'm freaking out, and she so casually says, "Hey, I'm on my way." "What?" "420, right? That's your dorm room, right?" I flip. I yell, "Do not come here." I hang up the phone. It continues to ring, and I freak out so much I unplug it from the wall. I think she got my dorm from stalking me, but how she got my AIM I still don't know. No one had it on campus at that point, and I searched everywhere for any connection of my name to my username and found nothing. And I don't know when she saw me and put me together with the show, and exactly when or how her obsession started. She continued to be a psycho for all 4 years. I mean, maybe I overreacted, but I was far from home and only in my first couple of weeks at school. First time adulthood, all that, and suddenly I was always looking over my shoulder. She did eventually come out her sophomore year. Shocker. She then dated my very best friend, who wasn't even gay before, and she called me up one day saying they both wanted to take a little road trip to my hometown in Texas while I was visiting my family. I got so creeped out because the creepy idiot just wants to get off on seeing my family and where I live. I strongly suggest to my best friend, who knows the history and how afraid I am of her, that I'm not comfortable with it. She assured me it's totally fine and that this girl isn't a creep. I tried to cancel several different ways, but it wasn't happening. At one point they said that if they couldn't crash at my family's house or if I wasn't there, they were going to make the 11-hour each-way drive there anyway just to, do a road trip and to see the town I grew up in. My hometown is terrible, mind you. Well, this creepazoid stayed at my home. My dad BBQ'd for her. She had such a smug look of satisfaction on her face. I then realized she stopped being obsessed with me long ago and now just enjoyed making me uneasy and rubbing our connections in my face. This has been happening over the course of the last few days. Sorry if it's a bit confusing to read. I've been a little shaken up by it. A bit of backstory. I just moved and left everyone behind in Florida, and I'm about 1,600 miles away, so I'm living alone with just my dog. I've been working at this place for 2 months now, and at my old store I never had this problem. I work at a popular restaurant and fast food chain, and there's this guy who comes in every day. As per new company rules now, we have to be overly nice to customers, and they want us to be on first-name basis with our regulars. Whatever, I can do that. I'm actually really good with customer service. So we introduced ourselves the other day. He's a really nice guy, easily 37 of 42 years old. Found out last night he's actually 47. I came in the other day to work, and I patted him on the arm as I walked by and said hi because I'm a nice person. Well, this past Thursday, on October 11th, he comes in and instead of sitting in his usual spot with his coworkers, they all sit next to our takeout window, which is where I was working. This guy gives me his business card, tells me to text him later, winks, and sits down and proceeds to casually look over at me and watch me occasionally. I told a few of my managers and everyone laughed at me. I was so uncomfortable until he left. I went home and started to think I may have overreacted to the situation and tried brushing it off. I mean, the guy just assumed I was interested in him because I was being nice. Fast forward to yesterday, October 13th, the creepy guy got worse. He came in and I was on the cash register, so I had to interact. First thing he said to me was, "I'm sorry if I was too forward the other day." I said it was fine and started ringing out the next person. He left. I went to our takeout side again, and lo and behold, he's sitting there. Great. I try avoiding him at all costs, but he's full on staring. He waves at me and asks why I never texted him. I showed him my hand with a fake engagement ring on it. My mom, boyfriend, and I all agreed this would be the easiest way to stop this. This is why me being alone is important. They're both back in Florida and can't help me much. And he said, "Oh," and left me alone. Then he came up asking for more ice, and someone else got it because we knew he just wanted me to get it. He asked me directly so he could talk to me. Then he came back and asked for toothpicks, asked me directly again. Again, someone else got them. Then he left. Coworkers are starting to understand why I'm freaking out in the back trying to avoid him. Fast forward to 3:15. Mind you, I'm off at 4 and freaking out at this point, and he comes back for a bag of chips, alone. He sat in the corner where I couldn't see him, then he moved to the takeout window again, then moved back to his hiding spot. Then he came up to the window while I was there. I said hi. He didn't answer, just stared at me for a solid 30 seconds, then walked away. Then I saw him leave at like 3:45. I was relieved, but had to have someone walk me to my car, and then I went to buy pepper spray. All the while, my general manager was making fun of the situation the whole time, and another manager that didn't witness his crazy said, "I don't believe that. He's a nice guy." My coworker went off on him. Thanks, Jenny. The one most messed up part of all is my manager refused to ban him from the store after admitting that what he was doing was creepy. I talked to my old manager back in Florida about it, and he said after the first incident, he'd have banned the guy. So now, I'm still forced to interact with him. Hey friends, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe. Hey friends, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. If you got a story, be sure to submit them to my subreddit, r/Let's Read Official, and give and receive feedback from the community, and maybe even hear it featured here on the channel. And join my Discord to interact with me directly and all the great people of the community. And if you want to support me even more, grab early access to all future narrations for just $1 a month on Patreon, and maybe even pick up some Let's Read merch on Spreadshirt.com. Links in the bio. Thanks so much, friends, and I'll see you again soon.